Hello and welcome to Safe Schools. I'm Curtis Graves.
And I'm Andy Howard.
Andy, we're going to have a great show today because we're going to be talking to two people that are in two of the most important professions in America, not just Mobile.
That's right. I
School
think that's
teacher and a
super
law
important.
enforcement officer.
I'm thinking this is going to be a good conversation with two important people who are doing some important work. And I look forward to having this conversation.
We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Abby Dinkins. My children go to E.R. Dixon Elementary School. The education that my kids are getting, it's tremendous. There's one time that I thought about homeschooling my kids because I wasn't sure, we're new here. And when I enroll my children at the public school, and I'm just blown away because the teachers are nice, the curriculum itself is different. I believe in Mobile County public school education for preparing my children for life.
Each month, more than 90 guns are reported stolen from unlocked vehicles, creating the potential of serious injury or death.
Lock it up.
Many violent acts and crimes are committed with stolen guns.
Lock it up.
According to ATF, stolen guns pose a substantial threat to public safety.
Lock it up.
Be responsible. Take time to record your handgun serial number and secure it from thieves. Lock it up.
Lock it up for me.
And welcome back. We love to introduce our audience to our great and important guests. With us today we have Ms. Weber, who is a teacher in the school district at Viger High School. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Officer Banks, who is a policeman with Mobile Police Department. Also welcome. Ms. Weber, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and maybe how you got to become a school teacher?
Okay. My full name is Gabrielle Victoria Weber. I am a math teacher at Viger High School.
Okay.
I teach geometry and algebra 2, and I also do ACT prep.
Well, thank you for coming, and I'm glad to have you here.
What about you there, Officer Weber? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Officer Javian Banks. I'm from Norcross, Georgia. I've lived in Mobile all my life. I've been a police officer about close to 2 years now, and I love every step of it.
I just called you Weber, didn't
You did.
You did.
Okay, we're going to bypass all that. But look, great. We really appreciate you guys coming out on the show. And, we've talked a little bit already about what we wanted to talk about, and that is your profession as a teacher and as a law enforcement professional. And the fact that you guys are in two of the most important professions in America. And I mean that because everyone can't do what you do. Okay? And how important is it for both you guys to be the best at what you do? Ms. Weber.
I would think that it's important for me to be my best at what I do. It's because your education is your foundation of who you are. Like, it starts with what you know, what you can do with what you know, and apply it outside of school. So it starts with, your education and me being within that process. So I feel like that's...
And that education is important for that law enforcement officer, Officer Banks. Officer Banks, why is it so important for you?
Well, I think it's important because, as far as
Just being a police officer, being out here having to deal with the community, right?
Yeah.
So something made you choose law enforcement. What was that?
My mom was a police officer. My dad is still currently a police officer, and I have family members who are police officers.
Sort of the family business, huh?
Pretty much, it runs through generations.
So the things that motivated you to become a police officer was how your mom and your dad both honored that badge and how your dad still does, and your mom does too as well, I'm sure. But what other motivating factors made you decide to become a police officer?
Being able to help people who can't help themselves. You know, we hear a lot about domestics. First time to go out to the house, you know, just listen to that person, help that person out as far as what they need, you know, and prevent, I guess, what can happen as far as dangers. You know,
Right.
just being there in the first place, and they call us. So it's like safety.
Call to service, and that's something that I think we all have a responsibility to, and that's to be of service to others, but very few actually do that. And the ones that do, like you all, it's very important that we always keep you guys in the utmost regard as it relates to how we see you in the community and the benefit that you provide to the community.
Ms. Weber, in that first year as a school teacher, how have things gone? In terms of, have you experienced what you expected, or it's different than what you thought, or did you have an idea?
I had the worst idea. Like, my career path it didn't include being a teacher.
Okay.
So, like, social media plays a big role in that because, you know, technology these days it's easy to access. So, like, being a teacher, you hear like horror stories, like teachers slapping teachers, wigs coming off of teachers, students
Wow.
cussing out students cussing out teachers. Like, it's some crazy stories out there, and it's like tons of stories you can actually see.
So you digested this social media exposure to the career, and it doesn't necessarily reflect what you would have expected or anticipated,
It's nothing like that.
and it's not like that.
Like, with me being in the classroom is way different. I haven't experienced none of that. Like, once you show that you're firm and you won't take, you know, nothing for what it is, then you'll be okay.
Yeah, we hired you to be in charge. You go in there and be in charge.
Right.
And that makes all the difference. You said your initial goal as a young person wasn't necessarily to become a school teacher. So how did you end up becoming a teacher?
My initial goal since 7th grade was to be a cardiologist.
Okay.
I majored in chemistry and minored in math. I went to Alabama State, and I graduated December of 2017. And I got applied, and then I got accepted to University of Mobile, and I came down here for medical school. And I had a part-time job working at Moe's off of McGregor, and this lady, elementary school teacher, she's the principal at the moment, and she said, well, if you ever think about being a teacher, just let her know and she'll put me in. And I was like, no way, no way.
Okay.
I've heard and I saw experiences, so no way. And then I thought about it, and I prayed about it, and I followed what I prayed, and I applied, and I had like 5 calls immediately for math, and once I'm in, now I feel like I love it. Like, that got me coaching. Like, it's like really awesome. I love my job.
Well, great, and that's what we need. We want teachers to feel the importance of the job that they do, so that they are their very best at doing it. Officer Banks, you know, you've already told us why you became a police officer. It's in your bloodline. It's just something that you felt a call to do. But when you deal with the community, and nowadays you're dealing with such a young population of people, and the effects that social media has on what you do, what are some of the concerns you have when you deal with someone who is motivated by something they saw or something they did on social media, and how you respond to those situations?
Some of the concerns, major concern is safety. A lot of kids pretty much feed off social media, see majority of the bad things as far as, you know, weapons, drugs. And for some reason, it's just something that young people are fueled by, you know. And I mean, pretty much, like I said, safety is the big concern.
I love that response, because that's going to lead into some other questions that I have. But we're going to have to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
It's a fact. Bullying happens. Bullying can lead to serious physical and emotional pain. But there are some things you can do to prevent or stop it. Stand up for the person who's being bullied. Let the bully know that it's not cool to pick on others. Take action by reporting the bully to a teacher or principal. In the end, when you help someone who's being bullied, you are also helping yourself.
The Environmental Studies Center is a natural sciences education facility designed to provide unique learning experiences. In addition, wildlife rehabilitation plays a vital role each day at the center. Featuring more than 500 acres of rich woodlands, the center affords teachers, students, and the general public an opportunity to experience firsthand the natural environment. Environmental Studies Center. It starts with us in the Mobile County Public Schools.
As Alabama's first and largest school system, the Mobile County Public Schools prides itself on the high quality of education we provide our students.
We have been successful over the years in raising our graduation rates
and have been recognized nationally for closing achievement gaps.
We believe that our primary focus is to educate all students to become productive citizens.
This is our commitment to them and to you.
And we're back. Officer Baines, we were talking earlier about social media and the impact social media has on so many things that are relative to what you have to do or respond to on school campus, for example. How and what would you say to parents and to young folks who often find themselves getting so motivated by what they see on social media and going in the wrong direction?
Well, everybody wants to be cool. All right, so when you're on social media, primarily Facebook, Snapchat, you're looking at people from, I guess, different parts of the world that are doing things that they think are cool as far as fighting, drugs, weapons. But you got activities in school as far as, sports.
You would tell them to get motivated, be encouraged to do something that takes your attention away from that.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the disconnect, whereas the connected would be if they're engaged in things that they can legitimately and physically and realistically engage in and have an impact and a consequence. Ms. Weber, you were talking a little bit as we were off screen about how you had, earlier actually, about your experience with what kids thought school ought to be like based on what they saw on social media, or how your experience in terms of what you interpreted it was going to be like. And as you said, it's different than that. How has it been for you in that respect? What's the difference in how it was when you were their age, and how is it now?
When I was in high school, which is not
very far long ago, yeah.
Like, we'll think what we want to say, but it don't come out. This generation, which I think I'm still in the same generation, but this group of kids, they'll let it come out. And they'll
unfiltered.
Escalate, right, and they'll escalate like very quickly.
Officer Banks just chuckled on that one a little bit. So you would agree with that, right?
I agree.
So do you think it's changed from from the time you were in school, how kids respond to adults, or is it the same?
It changed.
In what way? How do you see it changed?
I guess as far as like attitudes, just saying things that shouldn't be saying.
Right.
It kind of starts at home, but when you get to school, that's where it just, I guess, sprouts.
Would you agree that the behavior that sometimes they show at school and at church is different than what they show at school, or at home and at church? It's different.
All three is different.
Yeah.
And so if I'm hearing both of you, what you're both saying is from the time that you were their age, not a long time ago, there was some filter or some deviation in action versus thought. You process things and think about things and choose not to do things based on, you know, your processing of information and making judgment calls about what you should or shouldn't do. Now, you're saying this generation has a different mindset and a different perspective. They don't hesitate, they don't delay, they don't process.
I can say the difference, the main difference, my opinion now, is like my mom is 54. This generation, the parents like 30, probably early 30s. So when they did have their kids, that was like babies having babies. So now this generation or this group of kids, their parents are almost like their friends.
So what should moms and dads say to their kids that you think might have a difference? And what would you say to moms and dads about how to best prepare their kids to get out into the world and come to school or function in the world? Ms. Weber or Officer Banks?
I would say it starts with discipline.
Right.
You know, discipline, and then it goes to respect. You know, respect your mom. If you respect your mom, you respect anybody.
That's right.
So I mean,
That's right.
I say it starts with discipline and respect.
All right.
And your parent is your parent first, and not your friend.
And you know, you guys, again, you see what other people don't see. You see much of what others don't see. You know, you see the disrespect and the lack of regard for academics, and then you see the behavior you see as a teacher, and then Officer Banks runs into whatever it was that brought him to a school campus, and he sees the same behavior, even more so. And it makes your jobs difficult because you're tasked with educating. He's tasked with making sure that the community is safe. And his time responding to situations that shouldn't be happening on school campus interferes with his ability to actually do those things out in the community that are extremely important to safeguard the community as well as safeguard the school campus. So, you know, it's so important that we have this conversation and for people to see that the education and law enforcement are working together to ensure that our children are educated so that we don't have to deal with what happens when you're not educated, right? So,
goal setting. That's a conversation, you know, we had before we got on camera. So I'd like to have that conversation on camera, you know, to have that conversation for our young audience and for our adult audience. You know, you both talked about some process that you had in making the decisions to end up where you are. So you had goals. Ms. Weber, you said about how your thought process was and mentality about goals as a young person. And since you've been in education, what have you observed with young folks and their notion about goals?
They're not motivated, they're not driven to do anything. It's just for the moment. It's all about looks, hair, and eyelash, and hips and fingertips.
in that order.
Yes.
Yeah, and being cool.
So how does that translate into life if that's from your thought process?
Like life out of high school, you just can't do that. Like you have to get a job, make an earning for yourself, and be able to, you know, survive, basically.
And so I guess if that plan doesn't exist, that makes a lot of work for Officer Banks, huh?
Yeah, it's different in the real world. Different in the real world.
We're going to talk about the real world in just a second after this quick commercial break.
At Mobile County Public Schools, we believe it starts with us. That's why we offer Signature Academies.
I'm Tracy Tran, and I'm in the Healthcare and Dental Academy at Theodore High School. In the Dental Academy, I'm working alongside dental professionals getting hands-on training from those already working in the industry. Shadowing them on the job makes me want to work even harder because now I know what I want to be.
Signature Academies are open to all students in Mobile County Public High Schools. To find out more, visit mcpss.com.
Each month, more than 90 guns are reported stolen from unlocked vehicles, creating the potential of serious injury or death.
Lock it up.
Many violent acts and crimes are committed with stolen guns.
Lock it up.
According to ATF, stolen guns pose a substantial threat to public safety.
Lock it up.
Be responsible. Take time to record your handgun serial number and secure it from thieves. Lock it up.
Lock it up for me. As Alabama's first and largest school system, Mobile County Public Schools prides itself on the high quality of education we provide our students.
We have been successful over the years in raising our graduation rates
and have been recognized nationally for closing achievement gaps.
We believe that our primary focus is to educate all students to become productive citizens.
This is our commitment to them and to you.
And we're back. Officer Banks, you said something earlier about the real world. Let's talk about the real world. What does the real world look like to you as a law enforcement officer?
So when you graduate high school, pretty much nothing's given to you. You have to work for it, make an honest living, get an appropriate job, and you have to be respectful to everybody. You can't go to your, employer and demand something. You have to work for it and be respectful.
And that starts with education, right?
Education. Education is really important, So,
Not being prepared takes away options.
Right. Now, Ms. Weber, you say you had some examples of real world. The examples would be what?
I have two brothers that education kind of slipped through the cracks. Now one is also locked up for 20 years. One he was running, matter of fact, and he just got caught. So he's in his little situation. So, and again, both of them don't have an education, a foundation of anything. So if you don't have a foundation with anything, then you just flowing with the wind.
And again, this is real conversation because these are real realities that you, as a professional teacher, have experienced in your own world, and how it impacts not just their world but yours because they don't have it, right? We can talk about education or the lack thereof all day and talk about the pitfalls of not having it, because the example is you find yourself in desperation to survive, and ultimately it leads to bad experiences with law enforcement. Officer Banks, what is your take on the state of our young generation today as it relates to how you see them from a law enforcement viewpoint? Do you see it being something? Do you see them in a situation to where it's that they're making life difficult for themselves, or is life difficult for them?
I think the younger generation is more on the path of making life more difficult for themselves. Like you said, education is important. Well, if you have an education, you won't have to worry about, coming out on the streets and dealing with police, and that's as far as discipline or doing things that you're not supposed to be doing. So.
And they have a choice. There's always a choice, right?
Yeah, they have a choice.
Yeah. Failing to discipline yourself puts you into the scenario. If a person executes and has discipline and they execute discipline, there's really not a need for you to be a part of their daily experience. When you get involved, it's because of that, because of the lack of discipline and decisions that bring about consequence. We talked a little bit about how soon did you start thinking about what you were going to do when you grew up, and I think you said, Ms. Weber, maybe middle school? Was it in your case?
Yes. Like teachers, my mom beforehand was, what you gonna do? What you gonna do?
And
every day.
That was early
what you gonna
and
do?
frequent.
What you gonna do?
Yeah.
What you gonna do?
That's how she told you, right?
What you gonna do?
And Officer Banks, you were probably 3 when you knew you were going to be a police officer, right?
Just about.
So again, these decisions were made early. These decisions were not made in the twilight hours or the midnight hours of graduation or whatever. You knew, you started making decisions about your life's path soon, whether it was to become a doctor or not, but you had a plan. So it's important to have those conversations, and obviously you both had parents that had these conversations with you.
Yeah. You know, about what you do now. You said, Ms. Weber, that person spoke to you, and it impacted your decision. And you all are in a particularly important place in our community because the conversations that you all have with people can be so impactful in what they do next. You know, would either of you like to kind of speak on that a little bit?
Let's see, I'm trying to jog because I like to give examples.
Sure.
I had one student, she was going through something at home and it was very difficult, but she decided to open up. Now, she didn't like immediately open up. Long story short is I already knew what she was going through because a lot of females go through it.
Yes.
So in kindness, I'm pretty sure you know what that probably was. Okay. And by what I said, you can tell that it kind of put a calmness over her body immediately because she knew that she wasn't in it by herself and you can get through it.
It's important, it's super important for both of you to have that impact on people because as we said at the intro of this conversation, you're really important people in our community and the work that you do matters. And the conversations that you have with the citizens, students and citizens, students in school and young people outside of that building can make all the difference in the world. It may be a very brief conversation that you might have with one of them, but it makes all the difference to them.
As we wrap up, guys, first of all, I want to say that I appreciate your candor, your humor, because we have to bring humor to this. At the same time, we have to be very serious about what we face. But you guys really brought it home to the audience, and we appreciate you doing that. It's so important, again, to understand that what you do may not oftentimes be received as something that we all appreciate, but we do. So thank you for being who you are and doing what you do for our community. And this has been Safe Schools. I'm Curtis Graves.
I'm Andy Howard.